Is Jegant here, upgrading boosters, because the general discussion right now is that we are somewhat fixed to choose a very small selection of boosters that are very powerful, while all the other ones are either not as useful or just flat out useless. So we're gonna go through what are some of the solutions and what are the other buffs. Okay, so let's get started. So right here, what I wanted to focus on first is someone made this image to describe what is the situation. So the situation right now is that these other boosters are very powerful. So we have the vitality booster. This is one of the first boosters that you get in the game, and it's pretty much the best booster that you will ever get in the game. So at least the power creep nature of the game is sort of controlled, in the sense you don't have to buy the next war bond to get the next best booster, because you already have the best booster in the free war bond. So small credit to the team there. But with the vitality booster, basically you're getting 30% more HP. There's more details to that, but I don't want to get into it. I don't remember all of the details, but basically you're getting a lot of extra HP, about 30%. And then the next one is the health pod space. You're naturally gonna die a lot regardless of what skill level you are. So when you get respawn coming down with full stims and full grenades is very useful. I think it's also primary weapon magazines as well, actually. So that's very useful. And then the third one, most useful, would be stamina, because you're always going to be running regardless of what armor you're going to use. 30% more sprint and 66% stamina regen will always be useful. So you're pretty much stuck with these options. And then the fourth one is a little bit more situational. So here this person made a very comprehensive tier list of the stim. Right here is also one of my favorites, because it gives you 50% movement speed and damage reduction as well. You combo this stim with the medic armor that gives you +2 longer stim healing duration. You're talking about 2 extra more seconds of 15% movement speed. Very useful. And then with that, you're also sort of going to be sprinting slightly longer as well, with that 33% sprint duration. But on other maps, I suppose, if you're fighting only bugs and it happens to be like a biosphere sort of map that spits a lot of acids, a lot of slows, the reduced in slow duration could be very useful. Slow planets like snow planets could be useful for this muscle enhanced booster, but I do believe this one also is supposed to help you with climbing, but sometimes there's not a lot of useful climbing. It's very hard to sort of make use of this booster, actually. That's why it's very situational. So these are the basic ideas on the ranking of all of the boosters. So let's sort of get to one of the many solutions, and that solution is ship modules shall save the day. Because ship modules, they can almost do anything with a simple upgrade of like making vitality booster a permanent booster as a team. So if you're the host and you bought this module, let's say, the entire team, like even if you have 3 extra randoms, will not be able to pick this booster because it's already applied by default. And so you can pick 3 other boosters instead of the vitality. And let's say it's just gonna cost 20,000 requisition, another 200 sample green, and then 150 sort of rare, and then very rare 15. So you get the gist of it. Now for some people, there might be a snowball effect here that some people would just want to have the stamina and the hell pod space to be default as well. I'm just a little bit concerned about having more boosters being as a default, because sometimes some of these boosters are not needed for every single mission, and one of those examples would be the eradicate mission and the emergency evacuation mission. For these two missions, you definitely don't need the stamina. You're not going to be running around most of the time. Now, you could make use of the hell pod space, but something that another YouTuber, Erwin, mentioned when I was sort of asking the question and having this discussion is that for some good players, they don't die, and when they don't die, they don't make use of this booster at all. So if you are a team with some friends, you're very confident that you won't die, so you wouldn't bring this booster in the first place and you would select something else. So just having all the boosters be purchasable as a default booster might be a snowball effect that is not so good. It's not intended. So for now, my personal opinion is that Vitality Booster is a booster that you get as a beginner HellDiver, but then in the later stage of the game, being able to purchase it as a default upgrade would be very nice, but that's all it is. Every other booster should still be possibly optional, and you would still need to select it in your team, and it should not be purchasable through the ship modules. So one of the things that I'm a little bit concerned about, like why, if these two could be purchasable through ship modules, is similar to the idea of meta guns. Once you sort of nerf a certain gun, a new gun would just become meta. So what if these three becomes default stratagems, there will be another set of default stratagems, and my personal prediction would be that since this is basically people who are playing in the late stage of the game and playing like higher difficulties, they'll just select the localization confusion as their main booster plus experimental infusion to run faster, and then they'll just be the two main boosters forever basically, and then maybe they'll switch out to have a little bit of resistance to slow and muscle enhancement, or maybe if they're in the eradicate mission, they'll select the fire hell pod instead, or they might be in a different mission where the pelican will come a little bit slower, and so they select the pelican. And for me personally, when I see that the pelican is going to take longer than 2 minutes, I select this booster as well. So these two other stratagems will still not be picked anyways. So my point is that even if we can purchase more boosters to be the default booster for the team, there'll just be something else that will just become the main meta booster for every single mission anyways, and I think it would just be a bad snowball effect. But moving right along, let's just talk about the actual upgrades for some of these stratagems, and I won't go through all of them because a couple of them are already good the way that they are, even though they're not sort of used every single time, or they just need a slight increase buff. And so we will start with the recon booster. The recon booster just simply increase all HellDiver effective radar range, and there are a couple discussions going around about wanting to be able to find samples in the map, and some people think that it could be just a different booster, but I think it's just a simple upgrade to this current booster, that your recon booster here could or should be able to find the minor missions info by default, or if you're like close range to it, but of course your range to sort of discover it is sort of increased, or you can scan for support weapons and then be able to scan and see it in the minimap much further away. I'm a type of HellDiver that sometimes I look at my team, if they bring support weapons, I might not bring a support weapon myself and just ask them to share, or sometimes I'll just dive in and just pick up whatever support weapon that might be laying on the ground, like a AMR or a machine gun. These are some of the typical weapons that you can find on the ground, so I don't see why I should sort of bring AMR as one of my stratagem slots. It's always possible to find a support weapon on the ground or ask your teammate to find one, and this kind of booster that can help you find support weapon as one of its sort of upgrades could be quite useful. Now the localization confusion is already a little bit strong. Again, it also depends on the player as well. It basically makes your encounters much longer. Basically, the time it takes for the enemy to call for reinforcements is increased, and there's a different video that will sort of talk about the specific duration, but basically if you encountered a reinforcement once, then by the time you meet another group of enemies, they might not call the reinforcement yet because they're still on a cooldown, and this booster basically increases that if this booster needs a buff. And these are I forgot to iterate that a lot of these conversations are just if they need a buff. It's not they need a buff, it's just a hypothetical of if they need a buff. So for this booster, if it needs a buff, maybe when you sort of tap to sort of see your timer on the mission on the top right hand side of the screen, maybe there could be a second timer that actually tells you exactly the time that you have left before the next stratagem or the next reinforcements can be called by the enemy side. And another one could be that reinforcement comes down on you a little bit farther away than normal. Currently, some of the reinforcement calls or bug breaches are relatively close to you, maybe around 10 meters away, let's say, give or take. And let's say this booster could sort of make those breaches a little bit farther away, so you either have more time to run away or just an option if you think that is a useful thing. Like it's a confusion where that the bug breach or the reinforcements are not exactly sure on your exact location, so they land a little bit farther away from your exact location. Moving right along, this is a complicated booster because most boosters are supposed to help you during the mission, not after the mission or at the end of the mission or when things are going wrong. We'll get to that with a couple more reinforcement boosters, but this is one of the first ones where it's a little bit complicated to get use of it because this only lowers the extraction time of the shuttle. And there's like a lot of possibilities with this, and I'll name a few. Where let's say you finish the major order of the mission, here you can maybe call down the Pelican without needing to go to the exact extraction point by itself. Usually when you press on your stratagem, there you can already by default like tell your eagle to sort of go and resupply. Same idea here. You can sort of just go to your stratagem and just call for a Pelican from where you are and then start running to the pickup point. Another few ideas, because the first one that I gave is a little bit crazy, is that usually you need to be in the landing zone and not go out of the range, otherwise the Pelican would just cancel its shuttle to pick you up, and then you have to start the whole thing all over again. With this booster, maybe you don't need to be in that range at all, and you have like a larger leeway to go out of the zone when you're fighting your enemies, and the Pelican will still come regardless. Now there is a trick, and I'll still leave a couple more useful links if you happen to see this video and not see again Erwin's video about having the Pelican be able to come down and then stay in the air and use its autocannon to basically kill as many enemies as it needs until you go back into the zone. So here a different idea is that usually the Pelican will have an emergency pickup once your timer hits 0-0, but here with this booster I'm thinking that maybe if the Pelican, let's say, requires 2 minutes to come pick you up, it will automatically do an emergency pickup at the 2-minute point before your battleship leaves orbit. So originally, without this booster, the battleship would leave at the 00 timer mark, and then the Pelican would do an emergency pickup. But with the booster now, this idea is that in the last 2 minutes before the ship leaves, the Pelican will automatically already do a emergency pickup, so you can still use the battleship and all your stratagems in that 2-minute emergency pickup time. The last and final idea is that sometimes people are desiring some anti-air, and with this booster maybe you get like an extra team stratagem, so it'll be like a team cooldown similar to the supply pack, where the Pelican does come down and then do some anti-air with its autocannons for a couple seconds before leaving. This still doesn't make too much sense if it requires 2 minutes to come down and pick us up, but then somehow when you call it to shoot down some anti-air, it comes down within 5 seconds. This doesn't make too much sense, but it's just an idea. But moving right along, increased reinforcement budget. Once again, this is a type of booster that is only useful when things are going wrong, and most of the time you don't want things to go wrong in the first place. That's why we choose other boosters to prevent us from dying. So here my idea is that you might have like a separate reinforcement budget for yourself, separate from the team. Sometimes you might have that guy. Sometimes I'm also that guy when I'm having a bad game as well, where this guy, he's dying more than 5 times. Each person, in a team of 4 gets sort of 5 lives, making a total of 20 lives. And this guy's like on his 6th death, and he's still dying. He's going on for the 7th and 8th. And you're losing your own sort of personal lives, and then you die, and then it's like you're near to 0. The idea for this buff is that even if there's someone who's feeding in your team, you would still have your own personal amount of reinforcement for yourself that would not be taken up by the teammates. And so let's say you would need to eat up your own personal reinforcements before you start taking up the team reinforcements as well. And let's just give it a number, like you have like 3 of your own. Right now the increased reinforcement budget is 1 reinforcement per person. That's so useless. So from 20 reinforcements for 4-player team becomes 24. It's so bad right now. Okay, now the second idea for this booster is that since it's a personal reinforcement budget, maybe you can reinforce yourself when you die, so you don't need your teammates to call you back in. If you die someplace, you can just sort of automatically reinforce yourself. This takes a whole booster slot, by the way, just saying. So it sounds like too powerful, but from all the other options that's already better than this, I'm just gonna throw this idea out there. Being able to reinforce yourself without having to wait for teammates. Maybe this will only work when you are using your personal reinforcement, which I pitched the number to be 3. But once you start taking up the team reinforcements, maybe that's where you need your teammates to call you back in. Now the next one, this might be even more useless than the previous one, and that's saying a lot. So this is flexible reinforcement budget. This is when you are at 0 reinforcements, and then this is where the booster takes its effect, where it will recharge that 1 life but faster than usual. It is so fucking bad. Now, as I was thinking about how this could be made a little bit more useful, I got an idea from a different game called Hollow Knight. And Hollow Knight, there is a charm where it changes your HP into the honeybee style. So what that is that when you lose 1 life point, it will take a couple seconds for that life point to recharge back to full. But if you lose another life point, you're only recharging 1 life point after the couple of seconds. Again, you don't recharge 2. Your maximum recharge will always be 1, but it's only within that time frame. Okay, hopefully you can understand that. So here, the reinforcement flexible budget here is that, let's say you start with 20, right? And one person dies. Let's say it takes 1 minute for it to recharge just 1 life. Okay, so once that 1 minute passes, it goes back to 20, but no more. But if one person dies and then the countdown is starting again for 1 minute, but then someone else's dies, so you're down to 18, the countdown will start again. But once that countdown finishes, okay, that 1 minute countdown finishes, it only goes back up to 19, but there won't be another countdown to go up to 20. It only goes up by 1, and you cannot die again, otherwise it won't recharge what you have lost. So basically, in this hypothetical of recharging 1 minute per life, which is quite fast, you can only die once per minute. If you die twice, you're still getting 1 life back. If 4 people die within that minute, you're still getting 1 life back within that minute. And that might make it strong enough to be like viable for some missions. And I'll just leave it at that. There might be like other ideas or other buffs to make it more usable, but I'll leave it at that. And that will be the end of this discussion that I have to talk about upgrading boosters. Of course, I like to sort of motivate anyone watching to share their ideas on how they would want to upgrade the boosters as well. Again, this is all for fun for me, and love to sort of hear other ideas as well. With that, until we meet again.